gone up anymore. I think it's okay for us to start. Hi, everyone. My name is Professor Raquel Velliou. I'm one of the professors in the Science and Technology Studies Department at RPI. We're super excited to have you here. This is going to be a webinar about our Design Innovation in Society program here in STS. I'm going to hand things over to Jim for now.
Great. Hi, everyone. My name is Jim Malazita. Like Raquel, I'm also a professor in the Science and Technology Studies Department, which houses the Design Innovation Society, or DIS, design program. So I'm going to start us off. I know we're a mixed audience here. Some of you may have heard more about the program during admissions events. Some of you may be finding out about it for the first time. So we're going to do a broad overview to begin of the program. And then we'll do a little bit more detail about our different classes, how the program works. And then at the end of this little presentation, we're happy to take as many questions as we can. So the Design Innovation in Society major, or the DIS major, is focused on producing socially conscious engineers, design professionals, and creative thinkers. It is a hands-on, studio-based curriculum, as we'll get into more in a little bit, that focuses on using design, the design process, and critical hands-on making skills and minds-on engaged thinking skills to use product development and organizational design to make the world a better place. So the backbone of the DIS major are our design studio courses. As Raquel will talk about, you take one design studio course. This is a hands-on course every semester throughout your education that essentially serves as both our cultural and educational homeroom and home base for the major. The design studio courses are designed to do a few different things. So since we are an interdisciplinary design program, we not only teach hands-on design and product development skills, but also explore deeper issues about the intersections of technology, science, and society. We also weave personal, professional, and social values into problem-based learning. So in other words, how do we identify problems, frame those problems as in ways that allow us as designers and as social scientists to identify leverage points that we can therefore address social problems, and then how do we actually think about our own positions and identities within larger social ecosystems to solve social and grand wicked problems the best way that we can. We also try to impart a well-rounded skill set in design work and critical thinking. So again, multiple kinds of problem-solving approaches, as well as thinking through how to best conceptualize a problem in the first place, as well as refine prototyping abilities and user testing research. DIS was originally designed in order to be taken as a dual major. So while it is not required, the vast majority of our students take two majors during their time at RPI, their first major being Design, Innovation, and Society, and the second being generally a more hands-on major or a second hands-on major, but not necessarily. So many of our students are dual majors with mechanical engineering, but we also have dual majors with computer science, building sciences, management, communication, and sustainability studies. Importantly, with the dual major setup, which we're happy to answer more questions about, you achieve both degrees still in the same 4 years or 8 semesters at RPI. And the dual major program allows us to get a really rich diversity of students, not only identity diversity, but also disciplinary diversity. So we have engineers, marketers, computer scientists, graphic designers, and architects all in the same room together, all being trained as critically engaged designers through the dual major setup. And importantly, our design studios, even though, as Raquel will take us through, each have different thematic and skill-centered approaches. All of them share some common components. So they all include iterative project-based environments. So the design studios, you're usually working on anywhere from 1 to 3 projects throughout the entire semester. We're consistently getting peer feedback and professor feedback and faculty feedback. And usually each design project, you come in with a new iteration, a new prototype, or a new version each week, and then change that based upon feedback. They also reflect the diversity of design practices. So everything from industrial design to organizational design to engineering design are all reflected within the design studios. And importantly, they address real world social and environmental challenges. So we view our studios as not being hermetically sealed off from the rest of the world. Starting in your second semester of your freshman year, your design studios require that you leave campus, that you leave RPI, and actually go out into local communities or national communities and work with them to start thinking about problem solving methods, to start identifying the cultures and contexts that your products might take place in, so that you can become a better designer. This means they run from problem definition, concept generation, prototype, and building. And as you're increasing your abilities and capacities in problem definition and in social scientific thinking, you're also increasing your capacities in prototyping, building, and hands-on development. And all design studios aim to develop innovative environments, products, and experiences. So how can we really think about design not just as a skill set for developing specific types of technologies or products, but really as a broader sense of how do we use specific methodologies and specific thought styles in order to address the larger problems that our world faces. So with that, I will hand it off to Raquel to start taking us through more specifically what our curriculum looks like and how you interact with it.
As Jim said, I'm going to kind of go over what our curriculum actually looks like when you are a DIS major. To be clear, this isn't the only requirements that you have as a DIS major. This is the key courses and key modules that you'll be taking. And this is always done in partnership with what's also known as the Haas core, or the Haas core, the science core, and all of these other curricular requirements that are institutional. But often as a dual major, if you come in as mechanical engineer and DIS dual, these things kind of count for one another. So I'm just going to get into our core courses for now. And if you have any other questions about how dual majors are structured, we're happy to get into that afterwards. So the core studio sequence, in essence, we've constructed it with what is known as the core studio and then the advanced studios. You'll be taking studios 1, 2, and 3 in that sequence, one per semester as you progress through the program. Studio 1 is known as design and representation. Studio 2 was design and identity. And then once you become a sophomore, you'll be in Studio 3 in the autumn, taking design and complexity. Then you go into what we call the advanced studio sequence. We offer studios A, B, and C, and I'll go into what those look like, but you don't take all 3. You take 2 out of 3 of those studios. And then we cap it all off with the senior project, which is a self-directed capstone experience. While you do all of these studio courses, because DIS as a major is housed in the Science and Technology Studies department, you'll also be taking Science and Technology Studies seminar classes. You're required to take Science, Technology, and Society, which is the introductory STS module, and then a specially designed Design, Culture, and Society module, which is generally offered in the spring, which is very specifically about how design and society intersect. Then you take 2 advanced STS courses. Both of these courses are free of your choosing within the STS catalog and include things like food, farms, and famine, sustainability careers, drugs and history, et cetera, et cetera. So there are many options to choose from there. In terms of skills, we're really, really proud of the diversity of skills that we offer our students and that students leave knowing. These range from critical thinking to problem solving and design processes. We teach students to really think about user experience and testing through the use of ethnography. I'm really proud of the sketching capacities of our students, and they slowly learn computer-aided design. If you don't already come with CAD abilities, you are taught some level of CAD abilities with us. And prototyping ranges from low to high fidelity. We start with very simple prototyping work like cardboard and scavenged materials. And because we have the wonderful digital fabrications lab and also a steel and wood workshop in our facilities, you get into really high fidelity prototyping work. We teach our students human-centered design principles. We really teach you to think about design not just as Jim was saying, not just is this hermetically sealed thing, but really is something that goes out into the world and has impact. We teach you interdisciplinary teamwork. There is such a variety of duals in our program that you're definitely not only ever going to be working with mechanical engineer DIS duals, but with building sciences duals and communication duals. So it's a really diverse range of thought. You learn project management. You go really quick through projects in some studios. And then sometimes once you get into capstone, you have one single project that you're working on by yourself. So you really learn project management skills there. We're proud of how well our students learn how to present orally and how to write. You write essays and reports in studios, and then of course the essays that are written in seminar classes. And because the vast majority of us are social scientists and humanists, as well as design thinkers, you're taught how to do really high-level social analysis on the intersections of design, technology, and society. So let me go a little bit more in depth in what our studios look like. Studio 1, it's the one that I teach. It's something that, so you'll come across me very early on in your DIS education. It's a very much Design 101, an introduction to design processes, just getting to know what does it mean to define a problem, to ideate solutions, pick among those solutions that you come up with, and get into rapid low fidelity prototyping. It's a lot of exploration on how design and society influence one another, the basic principles of design, and also visual communication. There's a whole bunch of sketching. I ask you to actually keep a notebook, a sketchbook throughout the duration of the semester. So really getting into the basics of becoming a designer. In Studio 2, this extends a little bit more into you developing your own personal design identity, and it also becomes much more focused in user experience design method. Jim often teaches Studio 2 and teaches computer-aided design within that. And there's also much higher fidelity prototyping as you get into CAD and start utilizing the 3D printers in the digital fabrications lab, but also use clay and wood. In Studio 3, there's a focus on the engineering design process, and also in the role of design in complex networks and systems. So we're not only thinking about how to design products, but how these products fit into much larger systems. There's a lot of work that happens with projects that go outside of the scope of the classroom. So students are not only encouraged, but required to develop projects that come out into the real world in downtown Troy, for example. So there's a lot of ethnographic and social research methods that get taught in that studio. And again, we get into very high fidelity construction here, including plastic, resin, and metals. Now, studios A, B, and C, as I mentioned, are the high-level advanced studios that reflect emerging themes in design research and practice. The idea that we had when we first designed these is that the professors who took over as instructors for those courses would have the ability to have to use their research as an inspiration for the topic of studios A, B, and C. So as DIS majors, you select 2 out of 3 of these. If you're a mechanical engineer DIS dual, you have to take Studio C. That's an ABET requirement, because that one really does focus very much on product design, and that's part of the ABET learning requirements. So that's Studio C for those of you who are considering mechanical engineering DIS dual. But Studios A and B have kind of developed a more sedimented topic as we've taught them now for 2 years in the way that they've become constituted. Studio A has a regenerative and sustainable design focus, and Studio B has had a very speculative design approach. Senior project, which I also teach, so I kind of bookend your education at DIS, is an individual capstone design project that really blends hands-on design practice and social scientific research, that in the way that you focus in on a problem space. So you're really taught how to do in-depth social scientific research into a problem space that you're interested in, and then you need to learn how to develop a narrative to justify the design that you ultimately create to address this problem space. The vast majority of students develop individual senior projects. At times, it's been allowed for you to work in groups of two when your knowledges really are really balance each other out in some way, and it becomes a truly collaborative endeavor. So I've had building science dual majors collaborate with mechanical engineer dual majors in senior project, for example, and that's been really, really great work. I'm going to hand it over to Jim again to discuss a little bit about the DIS student experience and also our culture as a department.
Great. Thank you, Raquel. As we've been mentioning, with the dual major intended setup of the DIS program, we have a broad diversity of students and a broad diversity of expertise. But kind of in spite and partially because of that, we also have a strong focus on building student communities. So the DIS major tends to attract between 30 to 35 students a year. So we have relatively small cohorts. You're almost always taking classes only with other DIS majors in your studios, so you get to know each other really, really well. You also have first dibs on our manufacturing and fabrication spaces, which include our digital fabrication lab, which has laser cutters, 3D printers, soldering equipment, as well as Arduinos and other kind of microcontroller access. But it also includes a new, very robust wood shop and metal shop. So you can make really, really advanced wood furniture and metal prototyping projects through those spaces. But our student culture is also really, really strong. Students get to know each other very well and tend to participate a lot in extracurricular activities. One of the primary extracurricular activities that our students tend to participate in is Design for America. We have a DFA chapter on campus. DFA is a nationally recognized program that is about using design methods to solve large social problems. So our students tend to fit really well into that culture. We get some funding externally from the DFA national organization, and we often have what are called DFA scholars taking up residence at RPI, who are either design graduate students or professional designers who are available to help consult with students on projects and run independent projects throughout the year. So that's been a really great source of student community. But students are also tend to participate in other student communications and student events, like the Student Sustainability Task Force, which is all about making Rensselaer a greener and more sustainable campus. But we also have lots of students who take leadership roles in the student union, so running student clubs and generally being a pretty vibrant part of the campus community. And our student culture is really important to us. One, not only because we're a relatively small major, that we as faculty like to get to know our students and like to build that kind of unique and supportive culture around the design program, but also because many of our students come into DIS with different ideas of how they want to use the program to achieve their career and educational goals. So for some students, DIS provides them the creative outlet that their engineering majors or dual majors might not provide. For other students, they're looking to get much more specifically into something like an industrial design career or a graphic design career. So DIS tends to be considered their primary skill and portfolio building program. Other students are more entrepreneurial, and so they're interested in using DIS and using our organizational design courses as ways of thinking about how to take a product from initial sketch and then actually developing companies out of that. And Raquel will talk a little bit about some of the entrepreneurial companies that have actually come out of our program. So our student community helps us bridge all of those different interests together so that even though we might all have different dual majors, we might all come from different areas of expertise, and we might have different career paths that we're looking at going towards, there's also still a strong sense of identity within the student cohort. Just before we turn it over to kind of more about the people of DIS and where our students tend to go, we just have some student feedback that we've gotten here that we feel really highlights what the strengths of our program are. So one, because we're a relatively small program, we as faculty can be really, really engaged with students at an individual level. So we're not just here to make sure you learn certain skills, we're actually here to help. We care about you in terms of where you're going for your career. And we'd like to imagine ourselves as playing a strong advisory role in your education, something that you might not necessarily get from a larger major. The DIS program, again, is not only about focusing on skills, but broadening the way that you think about the world and social problems. And so students often reflect that the DIS program helps them think about problems in better ways, as well as helps them think about how to solve those problems in better ways. And finally, DIS being a great academic choice, the class size tends to be small, so our studios will range from 19 to 30 students. 30 tends to be by far our maximum size, and senior project will often be about 11 to 15 students. So by the time you get to your senior level courses, you're really focusing on very, very close-knit environments in your classes. But since you as students also get to help design what your projects are going to be, right? We're not just saying, here's an assigned prompt that all 30 students have to do. You as a student are allowed to scope the direction and ramifications of your own projects. You get to work on meaningful projects on your own that you're passionate about. So you're learning design methods, and we hope top-notch design methods, while also through experiential learning, while also being able to really help guide and focus your own education in ways that you want. So to wrap this up, I'll hand it back over to Raquel, who will talk a bit more about some of the individuals in our design program, and then we'll get to your questions.
All right, thank you, Jim. So some people that are involved in DIS, you're seeing a lot of Jim and I today. We're definitely not the only faculty members involved. Our DIS faculty work at the intersection of design, material, and consumer culture, sustainability, and social science. Like I said before, a lot of us are social scientists and humanists, ranging from sociologists to historians to anthropologists. So there's going to be a really wide range of diversity of thought in our design thinking abilities as well. I have the 6 key faculty members for you to know are Atsushi Akira. They teach in Studio 3. Professor Brandon Costello-Kuhn, he teaches Studios A, has taught Studio 1 in the past and also teaches Senior Project. Jim, that you've been hearing from, has largely been focused in Studio 2. We have Professor Jara Mesh, who has been heavily involved in developing Studios B and C lately. Myself, I'm focused on Studio 1 and Senior Project, and Professor Langdon Winner is actually a key faculty member to know within the seminars. He's not involved in studios, but he's the one who teaches design, culture, and society. So I also wanted to kind of highlight some of our alum that have come from the program. The DIS curriculum really prepares our students to work effectively in a whole range of settings, from design consultancies to nonprofits to corporate contexts. So here's a little look at where some of them have gone on to work. Shan Alderdice has gone on to become a user experience, user interface designer at the Janelle Group here in Schenectady. Corinne Rezidar, whom I taught in Senior Project, is all the way out in the West Coast, being a user experience designer for Splunk. Eben Bayer and Gavin McIntyre are some of our key alums. They've been very entrepreneurial and set up this startup known as Ecovative Design that produces sustainable packaging and has even known to have a contract with IKEA. Izzy Kane became a user experience researcher for IBM, and Vincent Arena is the director of climate action in Long Island. So there's a wide range of places that our students end up, and we're really, really proud of that. Okay, so you're here, you're maybe interested in joining. We're super glad to have you. If you're an accepted student and you would like to become a DIS student, all you have to do, or a DIS major, all you have to do is contact Brian Woods. His email is up there on that slide. Of course, you've already been accepted into RPI. This is an accepted student webinar. So it's not a question of you going through this like high school transcript letter of recommendation process. You really just have to contact Brian. one thing to know is that if you don't, this is an opportunity for you to join us as a DIS student from the outset. If you choose to not do so, that's absolutely fine. We're not taking it personally. We just thought that it should be known that if you maybe decide to join us as a sophomore, that there is then an internal application process. Because our studio classes are small and we intend to keep them small, there is actually an entire quite competitive application process for internal students. So if you want to add DIS as a dual, you then have to send us a letter of intent, send us a plan of study, send us an unofficial transcript, but that's only something to worry about if you decide to not join us from the outset. I think with that, that basically